So I think maybe we will begin. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Fully Occupying Ourselves, a deeper look at how we see ourselves and ask for support. I'm Kat Anderson, and I'm going to be your host today for part 5 of a 6-part live series, Understanding the Canadian NMOSD Journey. And this is brought to you by the Samara Foundation for NMO, and it's made possible by a patient education grant received from Alexion Pharmaceuticals. The Samara Foundation is hopeful that attendance and views of this webinar will help raise awareness and elevate the understanding of the Canadian NMOSD journey. You'll have the opportunity to participate in a live Q&A during the last 15 minutes or so of the program. If you're just joining us now, my name is Kat Anderson, and I'm the Spiritual Director at Reach Trauma Response Consulting, located in British Columbia. My role at Reach Trauma is to support people on their journeys through grief and loss and end of life. I accompany those who are asking big questions about life. I want to help support them, and we explore what that means together. At Reach, we provide a trauma-aware and integrated approach to mental health and wellness through services like clinical counseling, critical incident stress management, end-of-life care, special education, behavior consulting, and spiritual care. At Reach, we know that not only can traumatic events impact your behavioral, emotional, mental, and spiritual health, but trauma itself can cause physiological changes in the brain. And depending on the traumatic event, as well as the individual involved, these effects can start to impact normal functioning when left unaddressed and unprocessed. What I love about Reach is that it provides a personalized model of care, one of relational connectedness that encourages safe spaces to explore and heal the stuck places of our lives, because we all need to be healed as people, even though sometimes our diseases can't be. You can find out more about Reach Trauma Response from our website at www.reachtrauma.com. I would like to open today in a good way by acknowledging with gratitude this beautiful land where I have the privilege to live and work. It's the traditional territory of the Coast Salish people who have always been its guardians and caretakers, and we are grateful. I'm Kat, your host today, and together we're going to take a look at how we can fully occupy ourselves, because how we see ourselves determines how we ask for help. And the tone and spirit in which we ask for help can determine whether or not we are heard or validated. Today, I'm going to be speaking with 4 beautiful Canadian women, Lavonne, Jenna, Angela, and Lavonne, who have had an up-close and personal view of what it's like to live with NMO. Before we begin, let's take a moment to fully arrive here today. For some of us, it took a lot of energy to show up for this webinar, and I just want to recognize that. So let's take a moment where we are, as you are able, to relax into this next hour, to fully land in this space with curiosity and ears to hear others, with compassion and kindness. So if you can, please close your eyes for a moment. And let's just rest in this space. Feel the force of gravity as it draws you down into the place where you are sitting or lying right now, and sense that connection. Notice that you're breathing. Feel the coolness of the air as it enters into your nostrils. Notice how it goes down the back of your throat and into your belly. Feel that air as it gets gently warmed. And as you breathe out, if you're able to place your hand on your belly when you take the next breath in through your nose, Notice how your belly will softly round and expand as you do. This is a deep breath, not the shallow breath where the air just goes to the top of your lungs. Just try it again, breathing in and feel that belly expand a little. And exhale out through your mouth as you're blowing out a feather, that warm, moist air. This process of acknowledging the breath is very important in grounding. It reminds us that we are here and present right now in our bodies. We're not living from a place that's away from ourselves. And we're also not living right in the front of our bodies in worrying or planning. We're not living in the past in ruminating, regretting. We're just here right now, together in one space, in one community, just breathing and sharing connection with ourselves and others. This is a restful place of non-anxious presence. Nothing to worry about, nothing to do for the next hour, just to be connected in this place. And as you're ready, you can just open your eyes and come back to this place now. Thank you for taking part in that. Mindful breathing is a wonderful way that we can support ourselves anytime when we feel dysregulated. It calls us home, back home to our body when our mind is swirling and when we can feel overwhelmed by our emotions. As we come together to listen and learn from each other, allow me to remind you that you're welcome to ask questions. But as our panelists are sharing, I would also invite you to come to a place to hold their stories very gently. We want to hold these stories without judgment as they share from their experience today, because their experience is sacred. And we open this conversation. We want to realize that when people share stories or ask questions, it is a gift to be honored. And when the Q&A portion of the webinar comes up, I will try my best to keep anonymity. Maybe I will just mention a first name or something if there is a question, because I will be reading the questions so that we can all hear what they are in case someone has difficulty with the visual part of the program. At any time during this event, if you feel overwhelmed or triggered, please do what is best in order for you to take care of yourself. Feel free to turn off the webinar. It is being recorded by the Samara Foundation on the YouTube channel, so you won't miss anything. Just return to your breath and breathe and regulate and take some self-care time. If you're just joining us now, my name again is Kat, and I'm a director with Reach Trauma Response Consulting located in BC, a trauma-aware and integrated group that approaches mental health and wellness virtually across North America with compassion and kindness. When we can take a deeper look at ourselves, we learn not only what our needs and desires are, we can learn to communicate those needs and desires more effectively. When we become more self-aware, we learn what triggers us, what judgments we hold, and those judgments might blind us from seeing ourselves, others, or situations clearly. And being self-aware helps us to see what makes us become reactive rather than responsive in situations. Knowing ourselves at a deeper level helps us to be honest with ourselves and others, to stay focused in the present and not rush ahead in worry or live in the past in regret. Self-awareness helps us to be less anxious because we know who we are and we know what we need and how to ask for it in a clear, concise, and respectful manner. This self-awareness is a skill, and it can be learned. One of the ways that we can become more self-aware and mindful is by taking some slow and patient time to get to know ourselves and treat ourselves just like we would treat a friend. We can ask ourselves questions and make sure that we listen for the answers and be reflective with those. These questions might look like, how do I see myself? This is important because I can look at myself with honesty and compassion while still at the same time acknowledge that I also deserve to live my best life. And this helps me to become more confident. And it also affects how others will perceive me. Another question might be, do I know what I need or want? This is important because when I do, I can formulate how to communicate my position in the ask. If I don't communicate what I need or want, clearly, there's a good chance that I'm not going to come away feeling like I was heard, and I'm going to be frustrated. Another question might be, am I really asking the right person? Is this within their scope or ability to support or meet my request? And if not, who is? Questions like, what triggers me? How do I seek comfort when I do feel triggered or overwhelmed? So let's bring in our panelists now. And if you can, panelists, please take 2 or 3 minutes to introduce yourself and tell us where you're located and answer the first question of, how do you see yourself? So how about we start with Lavonne? Hi, Lavonne.
Sorry, I was muted. Hello. My name is Lavonne Gallant, and I am just recently relocated to New Brunswick from Alberta. We have family here, and I was diagnosed in 2010, and I have the antibody. How do I see myself? Really depends on the day. I see myself as being weak. I see myself as sad. I feel like I need other people I need things to look forward to. And I need people to uplift my spirit. Okay. That's how I feel about me. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Lavonne.
Thank you.
Angela, hi, how are you today?
Hi, I'm Angela Legault. I'm in Edmonton, Alberta, and I was diagnosed in 2017. I'm one of those weird spectrum people, double negative. How do I see myself? I see myself starting over. There's just some things that they're very minute things. I can do most everything just really slow. Nothing ever gets cleaned all at once. But yeah, everything is starting over. I no longer can work. So that didn't work out the way I thought it would. Yeah, life is just different than what I thought it would be. So starting over.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you, Angela. Elena, hi, how are you today?
Hi, I'm hanging in there. I'm Lavonne. I live just outside of Vancouver in British Columbia, so I'm sort of neighbors with Kat. I was misdiagnosed in 2007 with MS and re-diagnosed in 2012 with NMO, but I've had it since I was 12 years old, so I was almost 30 years in the process of being diagnosed. How do I see myself? I'm a really busy person. I work really hard. I spend a lot of time volunteering. I'm mainly a go with the flow kind of person, unless it's something that I'm fighting for, whether it's, advocating for other people or just trying to move the needle in healthcare. But I do find that, I have a lot of struggle with within the healthcare system, and, being chronically ill and now dealing with disability. I've been dealing with different kinds of disability, but new disability is challenging. And so, sometimes I find that I'm not as go with the flow as maybe I want to be. So, but not by choice for sure. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Jenna, good morning.
Good morning or good afternoon, depending what time zone you're in. My name's Jenna. I live in Toronto, in East York to be specific, if you're in this area. I have had NMO now for 11 years, 12 in September. How do I see myself? I think I see myself with a lot of labels. Um, I mean, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a sister, and a daughter, an entrepreneur, an advocate, a patient, a leader, a professor. Like, it's just, the list is long. And so I think in any given day, at any given moment, I'm a lot of different things. And I think I do that intentionally, if I'm being brutally honest. I think I do that intentionally to operate that way, because it is my personality, to be that type of individual who likes to stay busy. But at its core, I think I wear a lot of those hats to um, occupy my mind from the real truth, which is that I'm often just really quite scared. I'm scared that I'm not going to fulfill all of those labels and those expectations, to the expectation I put on myself. Um, and then when you live with a rare disorder like NMO, um, I often just get really frustrated with myself because, you can't live up to those expectations, right? And so it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So that's how I see myself most days.
Thanks for that. Thank you. Thank you. So next question is going to be, how have you asked for support? And let's continue around in the circle. Lavonne, can we start with you? How have you asked for support before? And how have you asked for support in ways that it was received, and other times when it wasn't?
As far as the medical system, I've had a family doctor in Alberta for many, many years. And of course, medication is always, the first thing that they turn to. I did go out of that area, and I found relief in acupuncture.
Okay.
I have spoken to a mental health professional here in New Brunswick, and I found that to be very helpful. Because of COVID, of course, you couldn't go in, but I did I believe it was a 7-week Zoom with other individuals that were struggling with, in my case, depression and anxiety that this disease has created for me. And I found that very helpful, even though they don't have my same medical issues, to hear other people talk about how they handle you know, situations and feelings. I found that to be very helpful. As far as seeing your neurologist, I don't know how other people, it works for them, but you know, you see them every 6 months and it's in the door, how are things going? And, you know, they do some tests and you're out the door again. So I don't, you know, I wish we had more time with the people that know, you know, instead of just asking what our symptoms are, you know, that we could get, you know, that there would be some way to have a group, or, you know, you're not allowed to know who else in your community might have NMO. To me, that would be helpful if we could reach out to other people. What I'm saying is, as far as NMO goes, and it is helpful that we have the Facebook groups. But I do wish that the medical system would help us with more support that is specific to our disease.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. Support is so integral. And especially, I mean, with a rare disease like NMO, and then dealing with COVID also, it just kind of heaps on the isolation factor. So yes, completely hear that. Very good. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Angela.
I had a fair amount of medical gaslighting from my original GP. Wasn't heard very much. He just sort of brushed everything. I went to him off until I ended up in the hospital. And once I was diagnosed, I saw a social worker twice while I was in the hospital for those 10 days. And then I'm very fortunate. My neurologist is part of the MS clinic here in Edmonton. And they're fantastic. They have an in-house social worker. So things have gone relatively smoothly. I really don't have anything to complain about in that regard. My neurologist, while I was still in the hospital, told me to get on Facebook and look into support groups. Of course, just get support from them, not take any medical advice kind of thing. But that was fantastic for my neurologist to suggest.
Mm-hmm.
It helped a lot. It helped me feel normal when nothing's normal. And the MS clinic our social worker has helped me with all sorts of things like house cleaning and getting different sorts of therapy. I've gone to a psychologist that was recommended, and I was referred to through that MS social worker. I've had a CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, in a group setting with MS patients, because she only deals with MS patients. And from that, I had emotion-based therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't had to ask for anything, really, which I'm so grateful for. But if it hadn't been for that clinic, I think I would have suffered.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great. Wow. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Angela. Elena.
So good question. I like this. So I got connected when I was first misdiagnosed with MS with a peer support group, and the other 7 women and I have been together for 13 years now. So we are very close and extremely supportive of one another. And of course, with COVID, our monthly meetings have transitioned to Zoom meetings, but we're still doing that with one another. And it's been really great because even though I'm no longer with an MS diagnosis and I'm the token NMOer, you know, they've always been able to offer, you know, really good support and really sound suggestions when medically things are not going right, sort of troubleshooting and giving me ideas of how I can approach whatever the problem is in a creative way to try and circumvent some of the frustration that I get with the medical system. I do find that in terms of pain control, that's one area that is extremely lacking. And even though I have a good physiatrist who is well versed in NMO, accessing resources within that system is damn near impossible. I'm currently, I've spent 2 years trying to get into a pain clinic, and one won't take me because of geography, even though the majority of my team is based in that health region. And so I went to the local one and basically spent an hour and 20 minutes being gaslighted about, you know, all of my medical tests that this person had, and basically told, oh, well, at least I listened to your story, and you, if you feel like it, you can come back in 3 months and see me. At which point I called my physiatrist and basically said, you know, like, what were you expecting that this appointment was going to do for me? And when he explained it, I was like, well, you and I are on the same page, but the person who's running this clinic is not. And is there any point in me going back? And the answer was no, because they don't even offer the treatment that I need. So as a result of all of that, a year ago, I needed to ask for support in the form of getting a wheelchair. And that was really challenging because I talked to 3 different doctors on my team. My GP, like the amount of ableism that goes on in the medical system is shocking to me. And, you know, I was met with, you know, should I get a manual chair and have my husband push me? And I was like, that's not what I want. I want my independence, and a wheelchair is a tool for freedom. And oh, well, do you really think you should be out in a chair by yourself? And I'm thinking to myself, you know, would they say this kind of thing to Rick Hansen? Like, you know, people with wheelchairs are perfectly mentally functioning people. Like, we can go out and do stuff, you know, just because our bodies are causing us enough pain that we need one doesn't mean that we're incapable of, you know, going about our life in one. So, you know, I was kind of puzzled by that. And I had another person completely brush me off about it. Oh, you're just frustrated, was what I got. And so when I finally went to my neurologist, you know, and tried again, because, you know, it's one of those things, don't give up if you really need something. And, you know, immediately, oh yeah, I'll fill out all these things for that and let me know how I can help. Like, you know, the broad spectrum of responses is indicative of a problem in the system with, you know, people not understanding how this disease really affects you. And, you know, I'm trying to make my life easier. On the flip side, you know, I had a public health nurse here 2 weeks ago that I had talked to just by chance because of vaccinations. And he was like, oh, you know, we have great support programs in place to help you out at home, and let me come and talk to you about that and get that set up. So, you know, I mean, it's sort of 6 of one, half a dozen of another in terms of my experience of either getting exactly what I need or having to fight like hell to get something that I really need, or not getting that need met at all. So, you know, how I cope on any given day is a direct result of that. So yeah, you know, and it's exhausting when you're, I always say, you know, when you need to advocate the most for yourself is when you're sickest and least able to do it. And it becomes very frustrating when you're knocking heads with people because they will not listen to you. And, you know, they're trying to poo-poo your thoughts about your own needs. And it's like, you know, I live in this body 24/7. I can tell you what the problems are that I can't deal with, you know, and it becomes very demoralizing.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Wow. Yeah, what a wide range. What a rut. And it just not only does it show us that, our systems in across Canada are all different provincially. The systems are different, as are the people. The people that we deal with. Each of us are different, and those we seek help from are all different too.
And when
Wow.
I'm advocating, I'm thinking about, what about the person who has a cognitive issue? What about the person who doesn't have English as a first language and they struggle and they don't know how to navigate these systems? I
Yeah.
come from a place of privilege,
Mhm.
and I'm having trouble. So what is it like for other people? So when
Yeah.
I'm doing these things, I'm thinking it's not just for me, it's for everybody that's struggling with this.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks. Jenna.
Well, ditto what everyone else has just said, because I think I see a lot of similarities, and I'm frustrated with a lot of the same things that they all are as well. And so, well, in every province we handle things a little differently. Um, you know, the challenges with those that live with a rare disorder are often, some of them are definitely still the same, right? Uh, for me, I think in terms of asking for help or times that I've looked for it, I'm not, in full transparency, I'm not the best at asking for help. I mean, I find fulfillment in providing help, and so it's a very awkward place for me to find myself in to begin with. So the times that I've found the courage to do so and ask for help feel so much more frustrating when they're not fulfilled, right? And and then it almost kind of stops me from wanting to look for help the next time I know I need it. Uh, and it just takes a lot more courage every time, even more so. I think kind of back to when even before I was diagnosed, I had some symptoms, and they did a brain MRI and not a spine MRI. And I saw a neurologist. I waited a month while I was in some pain. And he sat me down and he looked at the scan, and then he looked at me and my then fiance who was with me, and he said, sometimes we have women who come in here in their early 20s who are stressed out and looking for attention, and there's nothing wrong with you. So I would suggest that you see another professional for some help, but it's not me. And he kicked me out of his office. And I was in an agony and pain, and his assistant chased after me and my fiance and said, you know what, you should definitely get a second opinion because I believe you. And when and
Mm.
I looked at this person and I said, well, I know, I mean, I was always going to do that. Um, and while I wanted to be angry, I was in just so much pain that I was just concerned with, okay, someone else has to come in and find me. But what was challenging about that was that my file was labeled as someone who had mental health challenges, like it's a dirty thing to have had mental health challenges, right? And so every time I would see a specialist, a new physician, they would see this in my file, like you know and you could see that they would, even the way they'd say, oh, have you had challenges with mental health in the past, with anxiety or depression? And the way they would ask it, they always kind of linger on that sentence, like I was crazy, and first off, I don't think there's anything crazy about having any sort of mental health challenges. I think it makes me feel crazy, for sure. They're making me feel crazy of this reactive stance, right? And then after I was diagnosed, immediately after, the hospital actually assigned a therapist, and we were supposed to be getting married at the time when I was first diagnosed. And so then I saw this therapist, and you're newly diagnosed, you have no idea what's going on. I hadn't even asked for help then, but it's, I guess, part of protocol. Hey, here's a therapist that you can talk to. And all this person wanted to do was focus on my wedding, this upcoming nuptials. Like, it was something for me to, focus on. And so every time I would see a specialist, a new physician, they would, be excited about. And I was so far removed from wedding anything. And, I was concerned with getting my vision back and being able to walk again. I had nothing to do with any sort of planning, but I gave them the benefit of the doubt, gave them 4 sessions, and every single time it was talking about the dress and who was going to be invited. And, and I found myself so frustrated that it took me years before I asked for help again. Um, and when I say years, I mean like, 9 years later, I went through IVF and had my daughter. I had another major attack. Like it was years before I found myself in front of my GP with panic attacks that I didn't even know they were panic attacks, but they had manifested themselves into these attacks. And I said, I think I need some help. Uh, and he actually kind of laughed at me. I mean, we had this great relationship. He unfortunately left his practice last year, but he kind of laughed and he said, well, it's about time. Um, and he said, you're such a tough and brave individual, but I knew it was about time, and I was waiting for you to ask, because if I pushed you to do this, you probably would have said no. And he's right. He's right, because of how I really felt about that experience, those experiences rather. And then, I'm very fortunate living in Toronto. We have some really great medical facilities, and so there is a hospital here that has a therapy group focused on those with rare diseases, with disorders, um, and recognizing that a lot of our mental health challenges are developed from needing to cope with physical ailments that we have no control over, and that uncertainty. And that's where I was introduced to CBT. So like Angela, I did the CBT, and it's been very helpful, and those are tools I use every day. But again, I found that really unsuccessful because it was only for a period of 8 weeks, right? So it's 8 weeks of one-on-one, and then you get thrown into this group facility. And I don't do groups because it is already very difficult, as I said, to ask for help and to feel vulnerable, and then to do so with a bunch of individuals I don't know on an ongoing basis, felt it's just too daunting of a task for me. So I find that still a failing in our system for those who look for help.
Mhm. Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. I hold all of your responses like with compassion and also with great openness. And this is such a learning experience for me to hear this from you. A couple of things that come up for me as I have listened to each one of you are realizing the importance of being able to look at ourselves, looking at ourselves and knowing ourselves, excuse me, that if we cannot look at our own pain and see our own pain for what it is, we also cannot look at the pain that others are in. Now, if you think of that in relation to some of the people that you ask for support from, what does that say? These are people that have a difficulty looking at their own pain, knowing their own needs, their own wants, their own desires. If you can't look at something in your own life, you sure can't look at it in someone else's. So that helps us, that informs us, our stance, when we go in and ask for help, how we are asking and who we are asking from. This is another person on the other side of the table. And although we have great need when we go in there, we are needing support. This is also another human on the other side of the table that has a whole bunch of stuff that we don't know that's going on with them. So how we ask is so important. We're coming to the table as a human, speaking to another human with compassion. We are asking for help. Once we know what we need, we are clear on how to ask for it. We can be confident in asking for what we need. We are not going to settle for something We are going to ask for what we need, and we're going to keep asking for what we need. And it's not going to change what we need. And it's not going to change the way we deliver the ask either, because the more defensive we get in our ask, the more angry we get in our ask. And I totally get. I heard frustration from so many of you. And you deserve to be frustrated for sure. You deserve that, because to have asked so many times and felt so unheard and often so dismissed, you know, that is really, that is very, very sad. That should not happen. But to keep asking, and don't let that change who you are, who your core is, to ask for help. It's so important, because as each one of you are asking for help, yes, you're asking for your own individual help, but you're also asking for the greater community. What works for you? What has worked when you have asked for help and you've got it? When somebody goes, oh yeah, like Jenna, when you were in for your appointment and the assistant follows you out and says, you know, I heard you. I believe you. Like, what does that do for you? That's what we're all looking for. We're looking for somebody who says, I hear you. I believe what you're saying. So important. So important. So, anything else?
And I wanted to add something.
Yes, please.
I feel like the reason why it's so important for us to hear the words like, I hear you and I believe you, and, you know, I believe what you're saying is true. When somebody says that to us, you know, after having been told for so long that we're, you know, there's something wrong with us, or we, you know, we're making it up, or whatever that is, whatever that message has been, it's very powerful when somebody says that, because what it does is it stops us having to convince somebody and get on with the process of healing.
Yes.
And that's the bottom line. And that's why, you know, that can be so powerful within you know, that relationship between you and whoever is providing your care, whether it's physical care or emotional care. I think it's super important, you know, to have that validation so that you can go, okay, I don't have to waste energy, the precious energy that I have, what little of it I have, on trying to convince you that I need help or I need care. And now I can go on to start that healing process, whatever that is, or receive that care.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so great. Very true. Yeah. So I'd like to just open up for Q&A if anyone else has anything to add to this today. You know, again, just feeling that we are supported. We are supported by, and you fill in the blank, because in your province, you may have support groups that you can join. In your local area, you may have support groups that you can join. It's so important to connect, to do what you can to look for your people. Look for people who you can be real with, who you can share stories with, who you can get energy from. When one is feeling low, the other can pick you up and say, I understand. And you know that they do, that they hear you. It's so important. So I'm just going to look and see here. If we have anyone who is putting anything in the chat. Don't see anything yet. So.
Maybe I can take a minute and just let people know the Samira Foundation on Thursday evenings I think it's 7 p.m. Eastern time, has a human collective project, which is peer counseling, and it's with other NMO patients. And it's an opportunity to meet once a week and to share and, just air your whatever is going on in your life in a safe environment. So you can find that on Facebook. If you go to the Samira Foundation Facebook page, it should be listed somewhere on there.
It's actually on hiatus for a couple of weeks because they're reworking it because we have so many wonderful individuals that join us every week. So definitely join the list because it will be back very shortly. But we're reworking how it's going to be organized because we have a lot of folks on there. We have caregivers, we have parents, we have patients, we have clinicians that join us often. Like it's a wonderful group that's taken its life of its own now.
Good to know.
Oh, great. Yeah, that's great. And I actually found something called an NMO resources app. Do any of you have that? Yeah, yeah. So that might be something that that others may look into. Got Jackson Foundation. Yeah, I know that there is an NMO clinic and research program at UBC Hospital to kind of just keep your eyes open for new things that come up there. Sometimes things stall out, but we can always hope that new people join and things get freshened up too. So yeah, keep looking around and find those support groups. Know what brings you hope. Seek meaning in your life for however you can. Find out what encourages you to have a good relationship with yourself and grow some things in that area. Yeah, those are all super important. So how has our little conversation gone for you today? What are you taking away from this, Lavonne?
For me, huge. I go to my doctor, my neurologist, and I talk about my pain, and we just up the meds.
Okay.
And the meds have, side effects, and to hear people talk about, pain management groups or therapists or, that's huge, unless you know to go in and ask for that specifically, we're not advised of, well, certainly I haven't been advised of anything like that. So this has been very knowledgeable. You talking about the app and the others talking about a Thursday evening. I mean, just these connections for me, it's huge. It's going to make a big difference. It'll give me something to look forward to and feel, like you say, validated and listened to.
Yeah, and connected.
Yes.
Because the thing is that, especially with COVID, we feel so alone. We feel so alone and so unique that this is us, and that this NMO is us. And it's not. NMO is not you. You are so much greater. You are so much bigger. Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
It needs,
Thanks, Lavonne.
yes, thank you.
Okay. Angela, what do you take away from our conversation today?
Well, just a greater feeling of community, and my desire is that more people will be willing to talk about their experiences on future webinars, and just to let everybody know, like, please look into getting involved with MS Society. They also have some great programs. I'm doing Zoom yoga with a bunch of other MS patients Of course, again, the lone NMO person, but everybody seems to be going through much of the same things. But it's a great resource. And just the other thing I'm taking away from this is just, Jenna, I feel your frustration. Frustration is my name every other day, all the time. But in this, I showed up late. I was doing my hair and time got away from me, and in joining this, it sort of centered me a little bit. Thank you. And just, I enjoy hearing other people's experiences, because it is vastly different throughout the country, and people get the wrong neurologist and things go sideways. It's just, we all have our own experiences, and I'm glad to see everybody thriving.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Thanks, Angela. And your hair looks great.
oh, well, thank you. I tried. I put on makeup today. You're welcome.
Lilania.
I think it's just a good reminder that even though our community is small, that we're very powerful together.
Yeah.
I think one thing we do exceptionally well is support one another. You know, because we all know what that feels like.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's hard to remember that, you know, you're not just one person, you're part of a community.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I just really appreciate people talking about this, because, you know, it's almost never discussed in our neurologist's office. Nobody ever says, hey, how are you coping? And are things hard? And what are you struggling with? Like, it just never comes up. So, you know, to hear, I think it was Angela say that she was given, you know, a social worker right off the bat was pretty amazing, because it's almost never discussed. And I don't understand why, because, you know, you're not just a body, you're a mind and a spirit too. And you can't just treat one part, you have to treat the whole person, because that's how we heal. And, you know, we need to live the best lives that we can within our diagnosis. And part of that is looking after our mental health too. And we get knocked around in the system a lot, and it makes it very difficult to cope. So, you know, I just applaud everybody's bravery in stepping up and talking about it, and, you know, just being willing to show some leadership on this, because I think it's really important.
Yeah. Thank you, Lilania. Thank you. And Jenna, just to round up.
I this is I think I feel a lot like Lelania. I feel very raw and vulnerable. I feel extremely raw and vulnerable, and that's okay. You know, I actually told myself I wasn't going to cry. I was like, nope, I'm not going to do it. And then you asked us to close our eyes and take a moment to be present, and it's the first time I have in a bit of time, which I was doing on purpose to avoid how I was feeling about some other things. Yeah, and then you got me right out of the gate, and I was like, okay, well, that was an epic fail on my part. So, but that's okay. It's okay that I feel as raw and as vulnerable as everyone else, because that's actually how I can be empathetic towards everyone else. You know, like all the other panelists on this call, and then doing that, you know, being that raw and vulnerable, it's what's that first step for me in really healing, in whatever it is that I'm dealing with today, right? And that's really kind of how I look at discussions like this, and any other discussions that I have with our with the other patients in the communities, that it's, you know, we're working on healing today because we have no idea what tomorrow's going to bring for us. And so I'm just incredibly grateful to everyone for that vulnerability, and to all the patients in our community, and to you, Kat, for leading such a powerful discussion today. I mean, I'm extremely grateful for that. You know, and I'm also very extremely grateful to the Samira Foundation, because it's just being advertised that we are expanding into Canada. And when you're up here in the Great North, and there's only so many of us up here, and then there's only so many of us who have NMO, and to be part of this community that hasn't forgotten about us and that wants to expand so that we actually have our own voice, our own community here in Canada, means so much to me. And I know it does to Lelania, who's also going to co-pilot this expansion with me. So we're really extremely grateful and excited, and thankful to you for leading this, Kat. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for sharing from your
You
heart.
don't mind, I'd love to say something, if that's
Yeah.
okay.
Absolutely.
You guys are all amazing. Thank you for, oh, you're making me emotional. Thank you for opening up and healing and trusting this. And I hope that we can do something great for you guys up there, but we're going to need everyone's help. And I'm scared, but I believe that you guys are so committed to the cause that we're going to do some amazing things in Canada. So thank you for this. This is just the beginning of so much more to come, and no one's going to feel alone anymore. That's if I can help it. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Kat. I mean, you've been amazing and you have so much to offer our community, and I'm so appreciative.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you that you took time to, enter into this conversation, and that you were, like Jenna said, brave and raw and vulnerable. That's just so lovely, because that's our true self. That's our honesty showing up. And I just, I ask that more light would come to you and more ease would come to you. As you consider the commonness of the challenge of living with NMO that this group all shares together, may you have peace, and may you be safe, and may you all be well. Thank you so much today for joining.
Thank you.
Bye.